Hello, welcome to Good Games Well Played, episode 166. I'm Clint, aka JCM. With us this week is Isley.
Yo.
And Messiah.
Hello.
And of course, it's the weekend after the 4th of July, so there wasn't a lot that happened this week. I know that there was I think Capcom did something early in the week, I think maybe on the 1st. There wasn't too much that I saw from it, more like they celebrated the Dino Crisis anniversary with a picture, but they didn't announce anything. And then they did confirm another Resident Evil game's in the works. And I'm like, yeah, we know. Yeah, we get it. Sky's blue. I don't know why that was such a surprise. But yeah, not a ton that happened. One surprise thing that did happen apparently is that the Watch Dogs movie has officially began filming.
I didn't know there was a movie.
Yeah, they announced. Well, it's 10 years back when they announced this. I think it was after the first game came out, and Ubisoft just tweeted, lightscameraAction.exe. It's the Watch Dogs movie, and I'm like, out of all the gaming stuff that I hear about, especially for long-standing projects and even current things, I'm like, I haven't heard anything about. I feel like I hear way more about The Division because this is Jake Gyllenhaal and oh my gosh, I'm blanking on her name. She's in Interstellar. She's Coop's daughter, Murph. Oh, Jessica Chastain. They are supposed to be in it, I believe. But that's gone silent, and I haven't heard anything about this. Typically, you always hear, a new writer, a new director. We can't get it going, yada yada. Because that's what Uncharted was for a long time. But I haven't heard anything about Watch Dogs. So, yeah, I guess it's let's see. In June, Deadline reported the project had picked up two of 2023's biggest breakout stars, Tom Blythe and Sophie Wilde. I'm not familiar who Tom Blythe is. The former is best known for his portrayal in The Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, though he's also appeared in shows like Billy the Kid and The Gilded Age. Haven't seen any of those.
The Ballad of Songbird and Snakes was actually pretty good. It was a play-and-flight movie I watched, and it was not as good as the original Hunger Games, but entertaining. It was not poorly done.
Yeah. It says here the original script draft was handled by Christy LeBlanc. New revisions overseen by Victoria Bata. I'm assuming I pronounced that correctly. New Regency CEO Yariv Milchin and company president of Motion Pictures and Television, Natalie Lehman, are attached as producers alongside Ubisoft head of content, Margaret Boykin. A lot of women working on Watch Dogs. So I'm curious. Yeah, see Watch Dogs. Yeah, blah 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 blah. I'm trying to see if there's any interim updates of what happened between the announcement and it coming out. But yeah, I mean, the problem is I'm okay, and I feel this as technology keeps advancing. Now, granted, it hasn't advanced a crazy amount in the past decade. It's really just iterations on stuff we already have. Improvements and yada yada, all that. But I'm always okay, well, hacking stuff is usually more interesting when tech is a little newer and gets set up. It's okay, but I feel is it going to be contemporary? And how's it going to play against, actual stuff we have? Are they going to, especially if he's hacking with his phone, it's he's got an Android and he's hacking all the stuff. I'm there are no cities that are, well, obviously it'll be fictional, but I'm curious how it'll play out nowadays versus if it had come out closer to the original game's release. Because when was Mr. Robot? Yeah,
Mr. Robot was a while ago.
I watched the 5 episodes of the first season. I just never finished it.
Mr. Robot was good, but I found it was really hard to get into after the fact if you weren't watching it during all the hype.
Yeah, and I feel I guess a big twist in it has been spoiled so much because it's been referenced in reference to other things, and based on the other things, I'm okay, well then I can kind of guess this.
Show had I won't say what they were, but the show had a lot of twists that have been beaten to death since, and wouldn't be surprising now, and or you would watch it and be this is just the story from X, Y, and Z that I watched and played.
Yeah. Yeah, it came out in June 2015, ended in the end of 2019. So yeah, it came out, after Watch Dogs. It's during all the hype, because I know that was really big, had Watch Dogs, the movie, come out, maybe it could have been better. Like not to say it's going to be bad. I'm curious. Like, are people really wanting that kind of like hacking techno thriller stuff? But maybe I guess they could lean more into that totalitarianism of the CTOS and stuff like that. Sort of hearing.
I feel like these shows are always. Was that a cat purring?
No.
Oh, okay.
He's sleeping next to me.
Oh, I thought I heard cat noises. I feel like generally we seem to get similar shows in reaction to like current state of events frequently.
Mhm.
Like you get a bunch of similar topic shows or movies that all somehow or games that all seem to somehow release at the same time. And I can't think of any like hacker ones that are on TV right now. So in a way, it could be nice if it was done well and was different, but it doesn't seem to be the current trend anymore.
Yeah, because like right now it's like I'm thinking of like all the other game stuff. Like we just had Last of Us, we're gonna have Last of Us Season 2. Arcane Season 2 is coming out. We've had Castlevania, like all these TV shows, and then for movies, we have a lot that's coming out. Well, not a lot, but some things coming out. Like obviously we've had the Sonic films. Borderlands is coming out soon. I'm trying to think of what other video game movies are in the works. But it's like, if you don't, it doesn't need to be about the game because the game's just like all hacking. Like it's the most removed, I guess, from a game it could be from a story perspective. So I feel like you're not gonna be, the gaming curse, which really isn't a thing anymore. But like the fact that it is a game doesn't really matter. It could be anything. So I guess they could. But yeah, are people in the market for that kind of tech stuff? But
I feel
Currently
like it's more like because video game stuff is doing so well now, they were like, oh, I guess you can actually do this well, and maybe the curse is broken, so now let's go ahead and make it, rather than, I don't know, when either of the games came out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm wondering too, like, will they do just a whole new story? Because I feel like you could, like, you don't need to follow the story from the first game. I guess you could do Watch Dogs 2, just have a group of DedSec folks do that, or you could do the Watch Dogs Legion thing. Like but that, I don't know if we just want to go to London, you probably want to save that for like a sequel or something, but it's like a Division movie's in the works too, but yeah, it's,
it's an interesting world. It's just, we're in the zombie apocalypse phase right now due to the election. So
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fallout. Last of Us, well, like everything on TV or like a lot of the new stuff seems to all be related to like end of the world things, like the Mad Max movie that just came out.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it's a movie too. Like I feel like Watch Dogs could potentially work better as a TV series. Like, well, just because that seems to be the case with video game adaptations right now. It's like the TV series are king, but yeah, we'll see. Yeah, obviously, if it's just starting, it's probably going to be at least a year. We'll probably see maybe set photo leaks, online, but we'll see what happens. And then the other bit is I know Dawntrail for FF14 come out, and I guess it's apparently it has the most amount of players it's seen in like over a decade, despite the server issues. But did it have like an early access for people that like paid like an extra premium thing? Did it do that for 14?
It was if you pre-ordered it, you got a early access code. So
okay.
We got to play it the Friday before, so the June 28th was early access, and then it officially launched on July 2nd. So we got to play it like over the weekend.
Was there still a queue for EA? Like I'm assuming a lot of the diehards did like early access, right?
Apparently at launch, like, so we didn't get to play until Friday night because I still had to work. So probably like 6 o'clock Pacific time is when we logged in. And we haven't had any login issues. I think there's been like at most 40 people in the queue ahead of us, which is pretty typical for like patch cycle stuff for Balmung at least. I guess at launch time, which was like, I don't know, 2 a.m. for early access on Friday, there was a queue, obviously, of like a couple thousand people. But that tends to happen when the servers go live anyway, because obviously everybody's trying to log in at once.
Mm-hmm.
We had one instance where we got 90K disconnected. I guess like the data center went down or something for a second, but we were able to log back in right away. And there was a queue for that, but it was like maybe 1,500 people, so like a couple minutes at most. But other than that, we haven't had any issues. Apparently, a lot of the server congestion and long queue times were on the Primal and Aether data centers, which are two of the most populated data centers, especially with a couple of the servers, because a lot of the streamers and kind of like popular community groups play on those data centers and those servers. So they were Square Enix was really trying to hammer in like, hey, if you encounter a long queue or you're having trouble logging into the game, just travel to a different data center and you'll be fine. There's literally like 6 of them that are less populated and you'll log right in. So I think a lot of the people ended up doing that. They just went to other data centers to kind of get into the game and play and stuff like that. But we've just been logging into our normal server, which is a highly populated server and is pretty much always categorized as a congested server. And we haven't had any issues at all logging in. So it's been, as far as like compared to Endwalker, where it took like 6 hours to log in one day, like like Michael would sign me in while I was at work and sometimes I would be logged in when I got home. It's pretty good, all things considered. So the people that are complaining about like their highly populated servers not being able to log in and then they have to compensate people, it just seems a little ridiculous to me. Because I told Michael, I was like, if we have a queue of more than like a few hundred people, let's just go to a different data center, because I have an alt on another data center who never has a queue to log in. So, but it's been incredibly smooth so far. We had the one disconnect and we've had no queue times logging in. So Crystal data center is totally fine and has been great.
That's good. Yeah, I saw some other article of saying like it's a FF14 Dawntrail is like playing a great One Piece game, but I'm not familiar enough with One Piece except the fact that it's pirates. But I'm wondering too if like the increase in players is because it's essentially kind of like a reset. Like it's like, okay, this is the start of like the new big arching storyline, and like that's kind of like, okay, I can take my time at going, playing the old stuff, but it's like, oh, now there's something new, or maybe it's even new players who take their characters to 90 and skip all the other stuff, and they're just like, oh, I want to jump in, but I don't want to be like, I was watching a buddy of mine playing, and he was trying to get up to Dawntrail, and he has some people in his chat, and there's someone saying like they wanted to play it and if they should start from the beginning or like pay to get past some of the expansion. And I was like, well, some people were saying like, oh, he was kind of showing like his quest log, like these are all the quests, look at all these quests. And I was like, well, didn't they like streamline the beginning of it so it's not as bad? Plus you have the trust system, whatnot. And then
it's incredibly streamlined, and also you have to figure that's 10 years worth of update content. Of course, right. It's going to be a lot.
Yeah, and I was like, what you should do is just like play it for a bit, get your bearings. Don't just jump right into like a level 90 character, especially because like it's not just, it's only one job that can go up to that level. So it's like, okay, it's like you don't even know if necessarily that's the job you want to play,
right?
And then it's like, so just play it, maybe get to those jobs, kind of try them out, level them up, just as a relaxing game. And then eventually if you want to jump to the further content, maybe pay for the expansion, because you can always replay it. And then how does I'm assuming the new game plus thing, does that work just in the same fashion as other video games, or kind of just like reset your story progress? Or can you, because you can go back and replay like almost, well, not necessarily the missions, but like if there's an instance dungeon for a story, you could replay it, can't you?
Yeah, so New Game Plus is basically, it resets your, it doesn't reset, but it lets you go through the story as if you were playing it the first time, and you can like pause it at any time. I would say the only thing that's like skippable, quote unquote, would probably be a Rome Reborn, because that's obviously the weaker thing. It's building up, it's, has had to have the most work done to it to streamline the quests and stuff like that. But all the expansions have been really good. So it's like if you're not interested in that beginning of that arc and you're just not interested, then yeah, skip all of Endwalker too, which is a shame because it's fucking fantastic, but that's all one cohesive thing. So if you skip some of it, you might as well skip all of it. But I know that a lot of the reason that the player base has spiked is because Shadowbringers and Endwalker were so fucking good. And Endwalker itself brought in a lot of new players. I've seen a lot of people streaming like, oh, I'm playing, middle to end of Endwalker to get ready for the new expansion kind of thing. So it's like people catching up in that regard. And then, yeah, because this is a whole new thing, you don't necessarily need all of that, like, backstory, all of that 10 years of lore and content that's been building up to this big, epic ending. Now you have kind of a new thing that's starting where there's still references to stuff that happened, obviously, in that initial arc, but they kind of address it, like the NPCs will talk about and stuff like that. But if you played all of that, you can kind of see it coming and you can make that connection yourself kind of thing. But it's like they do mention it, but if you haven't played all that, you're just like, oh, I guess this has sort of happened before. It's sort of similar to this thing, but it's different too at the same time. So I don't know. If you're going to put the work into it, I feel like if you're going to get into an MMO, you might as well just play all of it. I feel like the jump potions are more for like alts. Like I want to jump potion for my alt because catching up with gear and stuff like that is a nightmare if you're over leveling and stuff. But I don't know. That's just me. I'm a lore hound.
It makes sense to me as like an alt thing. If you're going to buy the MMO to actually play the MMO, I don't understand the point of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I was looking at the prices for like paying to skip all the expansions, and I was like, man, this.
And
it just seems weird to skip, like you're paying to skip the game you just bought. But again, like it makes sense for an alt.
And again,
you can New Game Plus it at the same time. So it's like if you want to get to that new stuff, but at the same time, it's like if you're going to New Game Plus it, you might as well just go through it because now you're going to be New Game Plusing old content while you're doing new content. I don't really know. And plus, there's two different potions too. There's story skip and there's level skip. So it's like you have to buy two different items to not only level up your character to do the new content, but you have to buy a separate item to skip all of the requisites to get to that content. So it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, it's for alts. That's what it's for, like raids and stuff like that.
Well, I could see like, because I was trying to look at it, like I was looking at the prices, because I think it's like 25 for the expansions, and then it's like 10, 12, or 15 for character levels. But I could see like, okay, excuse me, like I stopped in the middle of Heaven's Ward, and it's like, all right, if a bunch of people suddenly, or I had time, and I'm like, okay, everyone's doing Dawntrail, and I can, because it's that refresh, I can see like, okay, let me just skip to Dawntrail so I can play it with my friends as they play it new, and then on my own time, go back and finish Heaven's Ward, do all the other stuff on my own with the trust system. So I can see doing that as someone who, like a lapsed player, not necessarily a new player. Like, yeah, if you're a new player, just play the stuff. Like your friends can still go in and help you and get it, and then or do the trust system if you want, and then this and that. But yeah, if you're like a returning player who just wants to get in and play with your pals or something like that, I can see just paying to skip the expansions. But yeah.
At the same time with that too, there's also like, oh, but you're gonna skip. Like in your instance, you stop halfway through like Heaven's Word and you skip to Dawntrail. You start doing the Dawntrail story. You're like, why the fuck is this guy here? Wait a minute.
Yeah, well, that's why I feel like in that instance it'd be playing with you probably because Michael. I'd just be like, all right, Sai, give me the lore. And then you're like, because I kind of know the stories of what happens like in Heaven's Ward and all the other expansions just from osmosis, I guess. And then you talked about them as well, but yeah, I'd just be like, All right, Zah, who's this? Zah, who's that?
Why is this fucker here?
Yeah, it'll just be Zah complaining to Michael offline, be like, God, every time I run into someone new, it's always like, I'm like Wikipedia.
That's the biggest thing I struggle with is like, even when I played Final Fantasy XIV, I just kept wanting to be like, who is this? I don't understand what's going on. Please explain it to me.
There are a lot of instances, especially like early characters, where it's just like, I don't remember who you are, but my character does, so we're going to just gonna pretend kind of thing. But I do remember like major interactions and stuff like that. But there are a lot of instances where I'm just like, we did that? When did we do that? What expansion was that? When did that happen?
Yeah, because I feel like at this point, like if I was to come back, it wouldn't necessarily be for the story. Like I'd have to have so much free time to do the story stuff. It would be just to hang out with friends, chat, run dungeons, do quests and stuff like that. Like that's because that's what Final Fantasy, that's what 11 and 14 were for me. It's like there's game stuff you could do, and I would do that in between, like just shooting the shit with friends and link shells and whatnot.
Yeah.
But again, I'd have to have so much free time to even come back at all. Yeah,
to be fair, it's pretty friendly with like pick up and play at this point. So
yeah, but it's like the other problem is like there's so much coming out, and like I was talking last week, is like there's so much I'm like I want to play and stuff that I already have and stuff that's coming out that I want to play, and I'm like, I just don't know how, because that was the cycle for 14 with me, which wasn't too bad. Same was for 11. It's like, okay, I play 11 and then like, oh, here's that new game. I'll play that new game, new single player game, then come back to 11. And I play, because that's how all multiplayer is for me. Like, all right, I play Apex, I play Rainbow Six Siege. Oh, new single player game came out. Oh, okay, I'll play that for a while. Usually I get it done like in a week back in the day when I, pre-kids. But now it's like, okay, I spend much more time on those single player games, and I come back and it's like, okay, what the hell happened? But
no, I get that. I mean, we'll probably get into it later, but Elden Ring has fallen by the wayside for me a little bit. So
yeah,
just like having multiple things at once, it doesn't really like work out the way you think it will.
Yeah, but yeah, and then not much else for news. I did see the unfortunate news that Surgent Studios, developers behind Tales of Kenzero Zhao, were hit with some layoffs, which is unfortunate. Just over a dozen employees got affected, but still, it's like, it just sucks, especially for them. New studio just released their game and whatnot. It's like, it feels like the market for success for smaller titles, I feel like, is just still so high, versus back in the day. Like they talk about a lot with games that, don't necessarily perform super well, but like games can't just do okay. Like you can't have that Uncharted anymore. We're like, Uncharted's like, yeah, it's a big studio, but Uncharted wasn't necessarily a big seller on PlayStation 3. And then like same with like, that the sequels are better kind of situation. Like you didn't give this IP the sequel it typically would get back in the day that would help improve and expand upon what the first game did and make it a popular franchise. Like you don't see that much these days. Like it's just rough.
Which is a goddamn shame, because it's like, you guys just released a pretty damn good game, but just because there's this unrealistic expectation that everything has to sell millions and millions of copies, it's like, not everything needs to be selling as well as Dawntrail,
I wonder if it was on Game Pass. I don't recall if they had like a Game Pass deal or not, but yeah, like I'm wondering. Yeah, it's like because I don't know how big their team is. Like, if you're getting rid of 12, like what percentage of your studio is that? And like, did it just really underperform? Like, I would love to know, like, because it's a smaller game, like what is that threshold for success? Was it because like, did it take just a little too long in development? Like, had it come out slightly earlier, would those costs that were saved kind of offset the shortfall of sales that you saw? Like I'm curious what that business model looks like. But
and also, was there maybe like a little bit of unrealistic expectation as far as how well it was going to do? Like, was there an assumption that streamers were going to pick it up and it was going to become the new like big fad thing and they were going to sell millions of copies? Or what was it? I feel like it being on Game Pass though wouldn't have really made a big difference because that's still like hard sales that they would have missed out on.
Yeah, but I'm curious, like if what was that upfront lump sum that they would get from Microsoft to be on that platform? Like I'm curious
if it would have made a difference.
Yeah, if it would, because I know a lot of people will be like, oh hey, this bit, like, yeah, we're on Game Pass, but it's like it's a nice cut that helps us to get on there. And then it's like if that way, if you don't hit expectations elsewhere, it helps offset that. And then if you overshoot, it's like, sure, potential lost sales, but it's like you might have overshot because you were on Game Pass. I mean, look at Rocket League, right? But but yeah, because I wish I can't see. I was trying to look up to see how big the studio was. Surgent Studios. I'm trying to see who. It's published by EA under its EA Originals label. So I'm curious if it was part of that publishing deal with EA, and I'm wondering if their EA Originals label has like a lower threshold of expectations because it's trying to. The idea there would be to foster new IP. So like, would you not necessarily need it to hit higher, or I don't know. Yeah, but yeah, it's unfortunate, especially because it just came out end of April, so it hasn't been on the market for just 2 months. But yeah, unfortunate. But yeah, outside of that, like I said, not a whole lot of news. I know that the First Descendants came out and people have been playing that. And I watched it, like, oh, this is just Warframe, but from a different developer. So I'm like, okay. But I know that's been pretty popular amongst streamers and players, even though it's got like heavy microtransactions. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, there's some sales, but I'm not going to go over them because I think some of those sales end tomorrow morning.
A lot of them are over now, or
yeah,
tomorrow.
And a new one will be starting immediately after anyway, so it doesn't necessarily matter.
Yeah, there you go. Depending on what platform you're on, you'll be. I do like the bigger sales because at least then it's a lot like. I mean, we talked about this before, but like when it's a big sale across multiple platforms, if it's on sale on PlayStation, it's also going to be on sale on Xbox and usually Steam. For Steam will have its own summer sales, sometimes by itself, irrespective of what each of the console platforms are doing. So it's like usually if it's like a publisher-driven sale or a holiday-themed one, usually it's like, okay, it'll be across the board. But yeah. All right, well, that'll do it for the news then. We can go ahead and jump into what we've been playing. We'll save Zaya for after Isley, because I'm sure you'll talk about Dawntrail a lot. Isley, what have you been playing?
Sadly, nothing.
Oh.
Not even
I'm
Elden
ruining
Ring?
it for you. No, not even Elden Ring.
No.
I just don't have the time right now. I feel like I've been doing so much other stuff, and it's daunting that it's such a big expansion.
Yeah.
I know it's a dilemma. This is why I was like, "Oh, don't call on me first. Don't call on me first."
I thought you were gonna come back and be like, "Oh, I've been playing Riven Returns, the remake."
Is that the Myst game?
It's the sequel to Myst, but it's like they did the remake for it that came out.
Did they? I would play that actually. I loved Myst growing up.
Yeah, I think I played just a small bit of Myst. I never played, because obviously it's a PC only game, and then I never played Riven, obviously. And then when this remake was announced, it's like, oh, it came out. It's like, oh, they also have a VR mode for it, yada. But I was like, I guess I could play this, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to play.
I don't remember playing Myst as a kid so much as I remember going over to my friend's house to talk about Myst and how we couldn't figure it out and couldn't play it.
I just remember walking along the bridges and the pier and all that stuff. I remember that. I barely played any of it because this was back in the 90s. So yeah, I think it was at a friend's house or something. But
yeah, well that's what I mean. We barely played it. It was more of you'd talk about one puzzle for 2 months because you didn't have a good way to figure it out and you were too stupid to use internet, or you didn't have internet yet because it was dial-up.
Yeah. All right, well, then go ahead and jump over to Zaya. Before you get into Dawntrail, were you playing anything else prior to, because you were out last week, did you play anything else before Dawntrail came out?
The Elden Ring DLC, Shadow of the Erdtree. We started that the day that it came out. Michael started ahead of me, but I played it most of that weekend. And then this past week, I was off work. I had taken vacation because video games, just video games, which has actually worked out great because it's literally been over 105 degrees here all week. So I haven't left the apartment. Well, I left twice to go to physical therapy, but it worked out great. So I've just basically been on vacation playing video games. So I played a lot of Shadow of the Erd Tree like that weekend, and after like work a little bit that week. But basically once Dawntrail came out, I was like, oh, I can juggle these. I'll just I'll play Elden Ring while we're not playing Final Fantasy. And then when he wasn't playing Final Fantasy, I was still playing Final Fantasy because I had, you know, side quests and other jobs to level and stuff like that. So I think the last time I played it was like Tuesday. I think I'm like halfway-ish through the DLC. It's kind of hard to say because you can kind of do things a little bit out of order. It's very much like the base game where you can kind of just do most things right away. You can kind of go where you want to go, which is really great. So it's been a lot of like just wandering around and exploring and maybe finding a boss door and being like, do I feel like I want to bash my head against this for a little while, or do I just want to go do something else? And most of the time I'll just go do something else. So, but that's been really good. I want to get back into it and maybe play a little bit more today, but I do have to kind of de-vacation and de-gremlin myself because I do have to go back to work tomorrow. So I do have to I did do laundry, so that's off my list, but I do need to like cook and, you know, clean.
De-gremlin yourself?
Yeah. I told you I haven't left the apartment in like a week except for like twice for an hour.
Fair.
So, I mean, I do shower every day, but yeah, that's basically all I've been doing is I wake up and play video game. So,
nice.
But
so
I don't want to get into.
You haven't finished Dawntrail with how much you've been playing, right? Because we talked about early, you had early access. You still got lots of it to go.
I wouldn't say lots of it. It goes up to, so the new level cap is level 100, and we're on the level 99 quest now. So it's kind of like coming to a climax. We're probably a few quests away from the end. Like, I don't think we have any more dungeons. We probably have maybe one, maybe two trials, but I think maybe just the final trial we have left. So we're pretty close to the end now. But we did basically take our time with doing it. After every area, we would went and, you know, get all of the aether currents and do the quest so that we could fly in each zone, and, you know, we'd take breaks and stuff like that. So we took our time getting through it. But we are pretty close to the end. I don't think we'll finish it today because he's going to be out for a pretty big chunk of the day. And I'm probably going to try to de-gremlin myself before I play Elden Ring for the rest of the day, but I do want to play Elden Ring today. So we probably won't finish it today or this weekend, but we'll definitely finish it this week sometime, probably.
And how's that? Are you, when you're playing Dawntrail, is it just you and Michael, or do you got like your group of friends still from...
It's just me and him. I do still have like my group of old 11 friends and some new friends that have kind of mingled into that free company, but everybody's kind of playing at their own pace. A lot of them work like night shifts, so everybody's kind of on a different schedule. So instead of trying to get everybody on the same schedule to go through it at once, we're just kind of like playing it as we go. And then we have a Discord server where we kind of check in with each other in the spoiler channel, like, have you gotten to this area yet? No, I haven't. Okay, we're not going to talk about anything then. So, but just chatting and stuff like that. And sometimes in the game we'll chat and stuff, but we're basically waiting until everybody hits like end game and finishes the main story, and then when the new raid comes out, we'll probably do the new raid all together.
Has there been any dungeons you had to run where you had to queue up with other folks, or?
No, everything is you can do with the trust NPCs now. You can even do the trials with the trust NPCs now, so you don't have to queue up for it's not like primal fights in this, but a similar thing. All of the 8-man trials, you don't have to queue up for them anymore. You can do them all, which they did trial in Endwalker, there was one trial where you could do with the NPCs. All the other ones you had to queue up with other players, but they did one with all the NPCs, which I thought was going to be a one-time thing because it was kind of like it made sense with the story, the way that it was kind of coming together for you to do it with the NPCs. It was kind of like a special thing, but they were definitely trying it to see how it works. So everything in Dawntrail you can do with the NPCs. You don't have to queue up for anything if you don't want to.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I was always like, that was one of the annoying parts of playing 14 back in the day. Just like, all right, now I got to do this dungeon as part of a story. So if I don't have people who can run it with me, I like got to queue up or whatever. It's like, all right, I got to.
That was
see what happens.
especially being a DPS. You're always in queue for way long. That was one of the big reasons I leveled a tank class in Shadowbringers, because I was like, if this is going to be a thing, I might as well just level a tank so that we can get a faster queue time. And then it didn't have to be a thing, so I didn't have to do that, but that's fine. I get to do all the role quests now, so.
That's cool that the trust system goes on. I remember back months ago, we were talking about trust and like how they were only established initially in like, obviously Realm Reborn, I think Heaven's Ward, maybe the one after that. But I remember like it wasn't available in everything, because I'm sure they probably had to like retool like some dungeons perhaps, or maybe make sure that the NPC AI to make sure that it's pathing properly in certain complex dungeons. As you go on, you're probably gonna get more and more complex with your boss fights and what have you. So you got to make sure that they're up to snuff. But that's good, cool that it's all the way through. So that'd be nice. That's good news for anybody who, like we talked about earlier, anybody who starts a new game and hasn't played before. It's like, well, you got trust to go on. You have to level them. How do you level up the trusts?
So you don't have to level them for the story beats. They'll come at whatever level is the base level for that particular dungeon or trial, or anything like that. You can optionally level them separately. There's no real there's no real benefit for doing it other than like getting glamour for them necessarily. So you can change like what the NPCs are wearing when they go through the dungeons with you if you level them separately. But you basically just have to take it like a normal party. Whatever level they are, that's the dungeon that they can do. So you go through it with the trust system. Otherwise, if you just want to do the dungeon with whatever they give you at the time, you can use the duty support function. The only difference being if you wanted to do a dungeon with a different party makeup rather than what's available through the story, you can do that by leveling them up separately. But if you don't really care about that, like who you take in or anything like that, then you just can do it at whatever level you do it at.
Okay. Right. Yeah, because my buddy was saying something about, or someone in chat to my buddy was saying, oh, you level up this person, you get and then you sound like you can unlock different trusts as well. Like, can you unlock NPCs as part of the story to be in your trust?
So I haven't done a lot of I haven't gone back to see if I could do older dungeons with new NPCs. So you will get new NPCs available to you just because of the story that become like trust updates and stuff like that. So through Shadowbringers, for example, there were only a few NPCs that were available to you. And then when they added Endwalker, for example, they added like Asthenian as a trust NPC because he is with you through more of the MSQ and Endwalker, where he wasn't with you in Shadowbringers. So just by doing MSQ through the new expansion, that's how you technically get new access to new trust NPCs. So in this one they added what's her name? Why am I blanking on her name? She's like a massive character in this. Kryl. No, Kryl. So they added Kryl because she was the new face of like the Pictomancer job or whatever. Okay. She's the new canon Pictomancer. But I haven't gone to see if I can do because obviously Kryl starts as a level 90 NPC because she has to do level 90 dungeons and trials and stuff like that, 90 to 100. But I haven't gone back to see if I can do early Shadowbringers dungeons with like Kryl and Asthenian. I haven't gone back to do that. Obviously, they would be synced to that dungeon's level, like they wouldn't be over leveled or anything like that. But I would imagine you could do that. I guess I should try that. Maybe I should log on and try that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's good to see there. So, how often do they add NPCs? Just only as part of the story for the trust system, or do they do like updates? Like, okay, now it's kind of like like when they do like playable skins in other games. Are they like, oh, now it's, or like Smash Bros. Like, oh, now one of the fan favorites NPCs from another part of the game. Like when you're doing A Realm Reborn or you're doing like this one, it's like now that character, it could be in the trust. Like, did they do updates like that, or is it just kind of like one and done? It's like, no, this is the batch. Here you go.
It was up until, well, with Shadowbringers is kind of when they introduced it, and then Endwalker, obviously, it was really the only time that they'd add new ones. The only difference is when they added trust support for Heaven's Word and Stormblood. Obviously, there's characters in that made sense lore-wise to go with you into dungeons. So, like, for example, Emmerich. When they added the trust system into Heaven's Word, you can go into a couple dungeons with Emmerich because he's with you and it makes sense and stuff like that. So now he's technically a trust NPC that you can go through that particular dungeon with. Same thing in Stormblood with Lys. You can take Lys into dungeons and stuff like that. So I don't know if they've added any other ones. Those are just the ones that come to mind. I haven't done any of the Heaven's Word or Stormblood trust dungeons. I haven't done any of those yet because I was doing them on my alt. But that's really the only case where they would add additional trust, is if they went back and added duty support for old content that didn't have it before. So if every story dungeon in the game now you can do with trust NPCs, but the trials you still can't do. So I'm curious now if they're going to go back and add trust support for trials now that they have it for Dawntrail, or if it's just going to be a thing going forward from now on. Because that would be an instance where they have to add more trust NPCs, because obviously you have to have more than just 3 additional characters with you. So they would have to add additional ones if they're available. I guess it depends, because you kind of always have the Scions with you. I don't know. It's hard to speculate. It seems like something they wouldn't necessarily do, considering they have to program those NPCs to do different mechanics rather than just dungeon stuff.
Yeah.
Like specific things like not falling off of ledges and stuff like that. So maybe in the future they'll do something like that. But that's really the only time that they tend to add new trust, is if they go back and add that support for old content.
But you've been having a lot of fun with the Dawntrail so far?
Oh my god, it's been so good. It's so great. We hit the
pull you away from Elden Ring.
Yeah. And it's also just like, it's very cozy to me. So it's like when I think about playing Elden Ring, I think of I'm scared. I'm just scared of the world. I'm scared of the things. I'm scared of walking around corners and getting, bashed in the head. Whereas like I would play 14 and it's like, oh, cozy, even though horrible things are happening in the story. And they very much had that twist of like, I don't know what the fuck is happening anymore, and this is totally not what I expected to happen.
Yeah, what's that mount called in 14 now?
What's that?
What's that new mount called in 14?
The Chorkropor?
The sperm ball thing.
He's a little baby. He's bouncing. He's covered in mud because he's a little plant. I don't think that's necessarily new. That's just something that they do. That's a drop you can get for watching streams on Twitch. And I think they did that for Endwalker too. But yeah, he's just a little plant boy. He's just covered in mud. He looks like a little chocolate ball.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, because I was going to say, you must be enjoying a lot because you've been like quiet in Discord. And like, so I just fully focused on playing the game.
Basically, yeah. I did pick up Pictomancer. It's very fun. I haven't picked up Viper yet because I wanted to just do one at a time. Mm-hmm. And the thing with Viper is it uses aiming accessories, which I have because Dancer is my main, but it uses scouting main body gear, which I don't have any of because the only job that used it before was ninja and I didn't level ninja. So it's like there's a whole new level of bullshit that I have to find room for in all of my inventories. So I kind of want to do that when I'm done with everything else and get rid of like the leveling gear for jobs that I already have. But since Picnomancer is a casting class, I have all of the leveling gear for that, and it's very, very fun. So I was leveling that. I got that up to 90, but after that I focused on... I've been doing the story on Dancer, so that's leveled up to 100 now. But my other one that I was focusing on was Red Mage, so I have that up to 98 right now.
Nice.
And my Red Mage gear looks like I fell out of Mad Max now. So it very much went from like all of this kind of
witness me.
It went from very like Brazil, like Southern America, like Central America, very themed gear and stuff like that. And then I get to the new zone and you get to a certain point and it's just like, oh, all of this gear came out of Mad Max. Somebody was watching Furiosa when they when they put all of this together and stuff like that. So it's like I should show you my Red Mage. It's inappropriate, honestly, for some cutscenes.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'll get my AF soon.
When you said Southern America, I was just imagining people referring to South America as Southern America. If they were like, if cowboys were all over South America, it's like, yeah, this Southern America. I don't know why I thought of that. That's funny. Like,
I mean, both kind of, but yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, I've seen like it became like a, you know, you open up Twitch and it's like, oh, here's who you follow. But it's like, here's your recommended channels. Like all of the recommended channels have been like Dawntrail streamers. I'm like, I don't watch. I maybe because I watched my buddy play it once. Now Twitch is like,
yeah,
yo, you want to watch this now? And I'm like, no, algorithms, come on, stop it. Just because someone watches one thing doesn't mean there's a pattern. That's not how algorithms work.
This is his terrible new addiction. Maybe what the algorithm really knows is that as soon as you watch one thing, you tend to watch that repeatedly for the next month or so. So the algorithm is like, this dude get really obsessed really easily.
It's just such a bad like analytical AI approach to something. Like, oh, we had one sale. Clearly people are all about it. It's like I tuned into one thing. But anyway.
Mine is all VTubers now because I watch one VTuber fairly regularly. So now it's and all it does is recommend me VTubers, and so it's like I don't want to watch them all.
It's better than just like for the longest time it was only feeding me like just chatting people, and I'm like, I don't watch that. Like I don't use Twitch hardly at all, and none of the people I watch, like the only person that does like just chatting is NL, and that's like when he starts the stream before he starts, you know, playing whatever. But like no one else is like a just chatting streamer, and like so it's so I'm like, who are all? I don't know any of these people. Like, stop putting them up on my screen.
That's what mine is. It's all VTubers who are just chatting. So it's like it's all Final Fantasy 14 streamers and VTubers who are just chatting, and it's just because I typically turn into Chibidoki's stream as she's finishing up her like chatting thing and going into a game. But because I clicked on a VTuber stream while it said just chatting, Twitch now thinks that's all I want to watch.
Yeah. Crazy. I talked last week about how I, you know, was playing Signalis and like when I was on my business trip, and how I was probably just going to restart it because it's like not one of those games you can just like walk away from because there's no like good way to track like your progress, like what you were doing. So I did restart that, got through where I was pretty quick. I did the first boss. I'm glad that they kind of put the box when you're targeting an enemy with the X. I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to do for this boss fight? And it's just like, oh, you just have to wait, dodge, and then eventually they'll just randomly drop to their knees and spit stuff out their helmet, and their helmet's open, you could shoot. I'm like, okay, it's such a weird boss fight. And then just playing that, and I was wondering because like none of the bodies would go away from the enemies you kill. I'm like, why are the bodies still on the floor? I'm like, these fuckers gonna come back, aren't they? And then like sure enough, I found like a note later on. It's like, oh, one of the bodies like came back to life. I was like, yep, here we go.
It's a very Resident Evil thing where it's like the body is contained. The next note, the body is missing.
Yeah, you have to burn it with a flare if you really want to get rid of them. And I'm like, that's like I'll just run past them. Like I don't know if I'm just going through an area because like I got a key and I want to go, or I got to go to my like a chest and get a different item out. It's like I'll just run past the enemy. I don't care. But I can't figure out life of me like. For some reason, it has like the standard like health system, kind of like Resident Evil with the color wise, like, oh, you took damage. And when I was playing, it's like, oh, I got hurt. My character's like staggering. Okay, I'll use a med pack. And it's like, oh, or, just a patch. And it's like, all right, now you're in yellow. And then I use another one. It's like, you're still in yellow. And I'm like, okay, I only have like 2 more of these. And I saved it and I used both of them. Like, I'm still in yellow. And I'm like, how much do I have to heal to get to green? I was like, screw it, I'm not going to do that. So I'm just like, and I use like they had like a repair spray, and I'm like, do I ever go back to green, or am I just like perpetually for the story in yellow?
And you just wasted all of your med packs for nothing.
That's why I save first, because I was like, let's save, waste them, see what happens, and then you kind of want to see like what's the barometer for how much I go, how much health I gotta get back, and then it's just like reloaded to an earlier save. But and there's this one bit where like they talk about, oh, someone's broadcasting these safe codes, yada, yada. And then eventually you get like this radio module. And so I go through all the frequencies and I write down all the codes. But I guess I didn't pay attention to a note that I read that says like, oh, here's the, like, it's like a list of code words, like sword, shield, all these other things. So, which correspond, I guess, to the safes. And I think I haven't played in a bit, so I think the safes have the symbol on them. So that way, like, oh, the shield, if it has a sword, it's going to be this code based on where that code falls on the frequency kind of thing. So, because the first safe I came across, I just went through every code I had and just punched it in the safe. And it's like, okay, this one worked. And then I got to another one. I'm like, it was a unique one. I'm okay, I've seen the paper that has the sword symbol on it. And I'm like, I think I understand this. Like, I get what they want me to do, because like it's a translation of symbols to where they go, but then the symbols are in a different position on the safe. So you just have to translate it on the paper and then transpose it onto the safe code. But it's just like, okay, which one of my codes goes to this safe? And I'm like, I don't want to go through all 7 that I had left or whatever to find the right one. I'm like, it'd be such a waste of time. So I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go here. It's like, oh, to get this safe, it was the sword code. And if you found the paper with the thing, so I saw the paper, I was like, and the character has like this database you can go through in their head, like to figure out, hey, I can go look at old pieces of paper. But for some reason, I guess I must have, because I re-rolled, I must just ran past that paper on my new game, where I didn't do that on my first game. So I don't have the paper locked in memory, but I think I'm past the point where I can go back and actually find the paper. So like, okay, I just got to save this JPEG of this document. That way I know it. And then I just did it myself. But yeah, it's like, oh, just reference. Now you have to reference this thing you found earlier. But yeah, that's a fine game. But yeah, I went back in. I was like, okay, I want to finish up Liza P. So I talked about last week how I beat it on New Game Plus, but I didn't have enough humanity to get I was at the end. So I beat it on New Game Plus, but I didn't have enough humanity by the end to get. The whole reason I was going to beat it was because one of the trophies was like, you get a letter from someone on the best ending if your humanity is maxed after you beat the game. And so I went up to beat the game, beat the last bosses, went up to the desk, no notes. I was like, all right, I wasn't max humanity. So then I was like, okay, I still need to get the max humanity and the record. The one record I missed was from a side quest I didn't complete when I re-rolled my original run. I missed it somehow. Like, I found the NPC, but I didn't talk to them in the order of operations for it was like, you find this NPC in chapter 7, you go back, you beat the boss in chapter 7, you go back to the hotel, they're like, oh, I'm looking for my partner. Then in chapter 8, you beat the boss there, and then you go back to the hotel and talking about, okay, I kind of lied. My he's here. I don't know where they are. Go find them. And then in chapter 9, you run across their partner, yada, yada. They say, get the letter to them. You go back, give them the letter. Then they give you the record. But I guess in my playthrough, I must have found her, but then I just didn't go talk to her. Like once I beat chapter 8, I just went on into chapter 9 and passed the point to where the NPC was, or I killed them by accident because they're kind of like turning. And so I was like, all right, I have to get max humanity and get this record. And I was thinking like, okay, for the Legion arms, which is like the augmented left arm that P has, I was like, that trophy worked across 2 save files because I had unlocked the 1 Legion arm in my first playthrough that I didn't unlock in my second, but I still got the trophy once I unlocked all the other ones. So it's stacked. It's like, okay, maybe the records stack because I'm only missing 1 record. So I still have my first game save that I scrapped. I didn't overwrite it. So I'm like, that's on chapter 7, right after right at the start. So I'm like, okay, that's right when you meet that NPC. So let me just go get the NPC, run through this, and then do chapter 8, beat the boss. And like, let's get the record. Let's see if the trophy pops. Instead of running New Game Plus all the way through, which I'd have to do. I was like, okay, because that's my original idea. So I do that. I get the record. I listen to it. Trophy doesn't pop. I'm like, okay, trophy doesn't stack. I'm like, well, I still need to get the perfect ending. I will just do that on my regular first playthrough because with the weapon I'm using, it's just, you do so much more damage to the bosses than on New Game Plus or New Game Plus Plus. It's like, I'll just speed through the game, beat the game again, got the perfect ending, got the thing, pop the trophy, good. I'm like, okay, now I need to get the record on my New Game Plus Plus save, where it's the only one missing. So I went through, speed ran it all the way through, up to chapter 7, talked to the NPC, beat the boss there, beat the boss in chapter 8, did it last night at like 11:30, got the record, and then it's like you have to listen to each of them, only about like 5 seconds each. So I like went through all of them, got it, which is nice because I was able to pose my platinum trophy picture because I knew like, oh, once I click this, I can just fast forward with a menu button. And originally I was going to turn off the HUD, but I was like, nah. But then I got it, so I'm like, now I'm done. I have the entire platinum for Liza P. I'm now finished with Liza P. But like having to like go through at the halfway point on the original save, beat the game, and then go up to that halfway point and slightly past on my New Game Plus Plus. Like I played this game so much, like, but I love like every moment of it. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to beat it this half and then beat the first half on this one. But like, I enjoyed like the entire time doing it, just playing through that game.
It's like that moment where you're going through and playing it and realize that you're off course, but you're like, but you enjoy planning and getting ready to go to the next one. It's not like, I have that experience sometimes where I'm replaying a game for trophies, or I'm going back through it with trophies and realize that I fucked up again, so I just give up.
Yeah.
I always have that, well, not the, I always have that problem going through the games again and then just like not wanting to make different choices because I liked playing it through one way.
Yeah.
So it's like, I know I should be making an opposite choice and I'm just like, but I don't want to.
But it will make them upset if I do this.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. It's funny because like I was almost concerned like, oh, I should just, because there's like 2 optional boss fights that you have to do if you're kind of like playing a bad playthrough, I guess, or you just aren't focused on, if you didn't make some choices, like you become friends with some NPCs essentially, and like you have the option to not fight them later on. You can help them out. And so I did that on all my playthroughs. So I've never actually fought them. Not that they're necessarily going to be that hard to fight because they're just human characters, and like all the humans that you can kind of run across in the world as like mini bosses are not that hard. But I've never fought them. I was like, oh man, I need to do like actually fight these 2 characters. But now I have like, if the DLC comes out, like there's theories on where the DLC like entrance is going to be. There's like this Stargazer, which is their version of like a bonfire. That's like, it's gold, but it's broken in this one level. And people think like that's going to be like, if there's DLC, that Stargazer will be like the way through. It's like the broken crag in FF11 for Promathia. But yeah, so like that's the theory. But now I have a save at the end of a new game. So if I can just go run, do it, and be fine. And then if they do that same kind of that way, if there's any level scaling issues, I don't have to worry about it. I'm just at the end of the new game, just right into it. And then I have one save where I'm on New Game Plus Plus, but I'm over halfway through. So I should be good. So if they come out and they kind of lock it in that Souls way behind a bit of progression, then I'll be all set. But
is the theory for the DLC still that you'll go to a different like fantasy world?
See, I don't know. The theory is like they think like that's where like, because people think like maybe there could be like, you know, another public domain fantasy world that would be like a sequel. But because it's weird because I'm like, okay, the Stargazers just like, they're just teleporters. Like they're not. So they're all connected though. But I guess if it's a gold one, maybe it's like it's connected to Stargazers that are in other places, like other parts of the world, I suppose. And that's the idea. Like you use it and it takes you to like the hand for after you beat Moog and whatever. Like, and that's, you know, whatever. But yeah, people like aren't sure if that's going to, cause I can't go into it without spoilers, but like, I think that's more like the world would be the next game, but the potential character of that world could be related to the DLC. Maybe but anyway, so yeah, I don't know. They haven't, rumors are that they're supposed to announce stuff more this year, but we'll see. But yeah, so I'm done with that. I'm a little bummed that I'm done now because I'm like, I really do like that game. And like, it's so
a good thing there's some DLC for Elden Ring you can play now.
Yeah, but I still have to, again, the Elden Ring, I have to
it's
play
a different
up.
play
I have
style.
to beat Rodon. Yeah, it's totally, that's why last week I said like, I'm going to have to get that buckler that lets me parry because I'm just, the mechanics of Lies of P are just so good because again, it's a lot like Sekiro, but you know, it's not as insanely like it incentivizes like not even blocking because like you can block in Elden Ring with a sword or a weapon and you still take a little bit of damage. It's the same thing as SP, but it's that perfect block essentially. It's like a perfect parry. Like if you time it perfectly, you take no damage, and then you also can upgrade your stuff to where like if you do that enough, you break the enemy's weapons. So you can break boss weapons during those fights. Or it's like you can make it to where on normal enemies, if you do a perfect parry, they become staggered and stuff like that. And it's like just that and the way the stagger mechanic works against bosses is fun because like heavy weapons like obviously have way more stagger potential in them, and just the like the weapon arts that you have, they call them fable arts, but like the weapon arts you have are so fun, varied, and I feel like Elden Ring I think did a really good job of having a super variety of weapons within each build style, be like dex, strength, or whatever. Like there seemed to be a lot of variety that was all real viable. Where I felt like in the other games, like I kind of fell into like one style, and I didn't feel like I don't like even a Bloodborne. Like I wasn't huge on big slow moving weapons. I still use like the Moonlight Greatsword or Ludwig's. So what have you is like, okay, those are fun, but I still kind of like default to the Saw Cleaver. I don't really like using all these other weapons. And Lies of P does it really well. It's like, so like, that's the one thing I loved about doing New Game Plus was just respecting to be like, okay, I'm going to do my advanced weapons in this section of the game. Now I'm going to do the dex weapons. Now I'm going to do the strength weapons. And then it's just like, it's fun to just experiment, especially because it's like, it's not just the blade, it's also the handles. So you can make like, oh, I like this hammer, but I want it to be longer range. I'll just put a staff onto it. So now the weapon profile of your attack patterns is different because you put a different handle on it. I love that mixing and matching of it. I think is so cool.
That's a very cool way to like further spread out the availability of weapons, is being able to customize specific weapons.
Yeah, because then it also like each weapon head, I guess you can call it, is like it has its own fable art or weapon art, and then it's like the handles also have their own. So you're like, oh, I put this handle has a great weapon art that I want to use with this other weapons. Like you can just take them off and move it around, do whatever you want. It doesn't cost anything to do. And then it's like some handles are like, oh, this is like it was on a dex weapon, so it's more dex based, but you can alter the handle to be strength based. You're like, if that's your build. So like you can change those around and stuff. And it's just so the variety. And obviously there's, when I was doing my New Game Plus, like I kind of, in certain sessions, I'd kind of default to that OP kind of build because there are obviously OP weapons and, what I'm used to. But like, it was just so fun just to switch it up and like do a ton of different things. And I just love that. And again, just the combat, because it's not just blocking. It's like the timing of those blocks and breaking the weapons is just fun. And it's just, I really like the combat in that game, and just the way the world, each of the levels kind of do that, souls intertwining with their past and what have you. It's so fun. And yeah, just good characters. Yeah.
You seem like this is your second, maybe first favorite Souls game.
Like I said, it's after
I can't remember
Bloodborne,
the last time you've talked this much about a Souls game.
Yeah, I'd be curious if I went back and played Bloodborne, like, would it still be my number one? Like, and it's gonna be so hard to go back to Elden Ring, man. Like, can I talk about what I did before? Like, it was tough the first time. Now it's gonna be even.
It's challenging though, because Bloodborne was like the originator of Lies of P and things, and there are probably things Lies of P does better, but wasn't original about. So, kind of a hard balance.
That's why I went back and it's like, because I love Lies of P, I should just replay Sekiro. And now I'd be like, because it's very much do the blocking, but it does have that other thing of, you have to do the jump when they do the thrust, or you have to do this dodge when they do this move. And I'm like, I'm not really all about that anymore. I like, you have to dodge, like there's attacks you can't block and dodge, red attacks from enemies and bosses and whatnot, but in Lies of P, but like, I love the Lies of P combat. It's just a lot of fun. But yeah, great game. But yeah, now that I'm done with it, I'm like, okay, I guess I go back to Signalis, do that. But I'm also like, I could. Now I can go into Elden Ring, see if I have that buckler that lets me do the better parries. But yeah, I don't know. I'll have to see maybe how much health I lose when I block with the weapon, and maybe just do that and not worry about it not being exactly the same. But got to get used to dodging more. It is so funny watching people play Lies of P who don't block and they dodge instead. I'm like, man,
that would be
dodging is like my favorite part. Like that's what I loved about Sekiro, especially like against the 100-armed centipede bosses or whatever. It's like, it's just so fun to be like perfectly timing the bling 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 bling. It's just, I like that stuff. But anyways,
that was like the biggest thing I struggled with Sekiro, especially in the first, I would say, half of the game, is my instinct is to just dodge, and it took me forever to get in the instinct of like, okay, they're attacking, block or parry instead of running away, because my instinct is like, I see an attack coming, I just want to get away from it.
Yeah, it's like, obviously you can do both in Lies of P. It's just like mechanically it's more built to the blocking because of the stagger potential and the weapon breaking and all that kind of stuff. And plus there's and then I love how they do like trait specking in Lies of P, where it's like, if I do a lot of parrying, you can spec into stats that are like, the more you parry, every time you perfect parry, you build you recharge your Fable Arts, or every time you perfect parry, you do this, or like, or maybe you like to get behind enemies and like hit them in the back when you get like they have like that Bloodborne stagger when you hit them in the back and what have you. And like, I could spec to be like, I do increase damage when I do that, or this and that. Or I love increasing the stagger time is great, because typically it's like when you first start the game, it's like, the enemy's health bar flashes white, you do a heavy attack, trigger the stagger, and they're down, and they have like a little like, it looks like red like claw marks, like Wolverine claw marks over them to indicate like, hey, they're ready to be hit with your strong attack while they're staggered. But you can increase that time, so it's like, now I can do a quick heavy attack and do the stagger attack as well to get some bonus damage in there while they're down. So it's just a lot of fun. But anyway, it'll be great once Izzy starts playing it, and we can talk about it. But then he'll be like, if he's kind of like 7.5 on it, I'll be like, oh man,
no.
But that's all I'm playing.
I wonder how long of a void you're going to be in because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I said the benefit is now I can go back in the only good thing about needing to get back through Rodin and Moog, even though I'm on New Game Plus, I'm not sure how much that changes, HPs and whatnot in that game, versus if I was just to roll a new character. It's like, that gives me time to get used to Elden Ring and kind of shelve the Lies of P combat. And like, and it's so funny because like I know so much of that game now. Like, if Izzy was playing it, he's like, oh, "Where do I find this item?" Or "What do I do this thing?" I'd be like, "Oh, this boss is weak to this," or "This weapon's really good against that boss," or what have you. It's like I know so much about that game. I can almost run through it with my eyes closed. But yeah. Anyway, it'll be fun to go back to Elden Ring. I just, like I said, I beat the first boss when I went back in and played it the other day or a couple weeks ago. So I'm just running through that castle. Just gotta get back in it. I hear that there are some fun shields in the DLC, so maybe that'll help. Kind of like, well, I don't really like using shields in the Souls games, but man, I also want to replay. I thought about replaying Demon Souls, but I was like, that game's, I don't know if I want to play it because it is a little slower, but I do like that game. So, anyways,
there are some very fun new weapons in the DLC. I haven't tried any of them yet because I changed up my build a little bit and it's kind of tearing ass right now. But there are some weapons that I've started leveling up because I want to play with them. So
yeah,
new weapon types too, not just like new versions of old weapon types. It's pretty neat.
Yeah. Good times. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Like I said, hopefully I'll be playing some more stuff during this week. Man, I need to pick. I want to play. Every time it goes on sale, I keep wanting to pick up the Cyberpunk DLC because I want to play that because I never did play it.
I thought you played that.
No, I didn't play it. I played because I beat it back when it came out on PS5 initially when that version finally came out. I beat the game. And then I think I hopped in a bit to do like the 2.0 update, which came out right before the DLC.
That's maybe that was
because they did like a bunch of changes. But I haven't gone back and done the DLC yet, but I want to. Because I like because that DLC does this fun thing where like if you're to make a new character, you can go straight to it and it like raises your level up to like 30. Like I love that. Like it's like the inverse of the Souls method of just like, oh, you can go right into it and we'll let you just level up a character. So, but I'm trying to go through my notes see if I took any other thing down. Nope,
I have no notes because I was basically dead to the world this week. So there's that.
Man, are there any like Chinese restaurants that do like just a dinner portion of the main courses? Because I feel like that's...
Why would you
like,
go to a Chinese restaurant if you wanted just a dinner portion? The whole point of going is to get obscene portions.
Yeah, but I don't want that, man. I want to be like, like if I bought it like for the whole family, that's fine. Like if everybody ate that, but I don't want to buy Chinese food that I'm like, okay, this is what I have to eat for lunch for the next 4 days. And because
that's the point.
Yeah, but I don't want that. That's why I'm like, that's like, because I always end up like defaulting to Panda Express because then one does like, oh, for $12 I can get like just that dinner portion. And I'm like, why don't other Chinese restaurants do this? Like, just let me get like, it's not like you're not making chow mein and fried rice in the back. Like everyone's buying that. Like that's the stuff, right? And your sweet and sour pork. Like those are the main, like anytime I go on DoorDash, it's always like, oh, most ordered items. Like it's not like you're not going to be able to use it if you made like a smaller portion. Like just, I don't want to spend $15 on the rice. I'm not spending like $70 on Chinese food for myself just to eat over for. Like I'm going to get burnt out on it after day 2. I'm like, nah, I'm over it. But
you have to find like small local places will do stuff like that, like where you can either order like custom sizes or make custom orders, or you basically order like a portion sized dish for a reasonable price. So you have to, because we have a couple local places here that do that, but usually you either have to call it in, because I don't think they do that through DoorDash, or when you go in to eat there, you can order like a custom size or a custom side or something like that. But
yeah,
you have to find like the local places that do that.
Look at their web pages and see maybe if their menus is in there. Because I'm just like, yeah, because like sushi places do like they have just normal dinner plates you can get, which like but yeah, Chinese restaurants like they don't. That's like none of them have that. But yeah, maybe it's just like you said, something that's only on like their menus and they don't do it through DoorDash because then it'd just be too much. But I'll have to check that out. But All right. Well, I guess we can go ahead and wrap it up there then. So thank you all for tuning in. Thank you, Izzy. And thank you, Zaya, for joining.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll see you all next time.
Later.
Bye.